The alarm clock chimed at 5 a.m., just as it did each day. Mariana extended her arm to switch it off before it disturbed Santiago's slumber. With weary eyes, she gazed at her 6-month-old baby slumbering serenely in the tiny crib beside her bed. He managed a smile, even through his fatigue. With the child's father having deserted her upon learning of the pregnancy, each day became a struggle for survival. He sprang to his feet to prepare himself. The gray cleaning uniform was neatly pressed and prepared. Employment at the Montenegro mansion offered superior compensation compared to other positions, yet the expectations were numerous. While she gathered her hair into a neat ponytail, her phone buzzed with a notification. "I deeply apologize, Mariana. I'm unwell and won't be able to look after Santiago today." The babysitter's message sent a chill down her spine. This marked the third occurrence within the month. She reached out to her neighbor, her cousin, and even the woman at the store, but none were able to assist her. The relentless ticking of the clock pushed Mariana to make a choice born of urgency. "I would bring Santiago to work." Half an hour away, in the city's most prestigious area, Nicholas Montenegro completed his morning routine in the private gym of his luxurious mansion. At 38 years old, he upheld unwavering discipline in every facet of his existence. Under his leadership, the family business flourished, emerging as one of the most significant enterprises in the nation. Yet, achievement came with a cost. While his assistant outlined the day's agenda, his blue eyes roamed over the flawless decor of his residence. Everything was arranged flawlessly, precisely how he preferred it. In the 3 years since the divorce, Nicholas had cleared away any personal belongings that could evoke memories. The mansion, while opulent, mirrored the same chill that he exuded in his professional dealings. This afternoon, his assistant announced that the contract with the Japanese is prepared for signing, presenting him with a folder. "Just a reminder that you need to approve the new budgets tomorrow." Nicholas acknowledged with a subtle nod. His existence unfolded through a succession of gatherings, agreements, and strategic choices. There was simply no space for anything beyond that. In the meantime, Mariana rushed toward the mansion, cradling Santiago in her arms and carrying a small backpack filled with her belongings. He slipped in through the service door, hoping fervently that Mr. Montenegro had already departed. "Hail Mary, most pure!" cried Carmen, the housekeeper, upon catching sight of her. "What is that young one doing here? Have you lost your mind?" "My babysitter cancelled, and I had no one to leave him with," Mariana said, her voice filled with desperation. "I promise it will just be for today," Carmen said, shaking her head in concern. "Should he discover this, you will be dismissed immediately. Distractions can really get in the way, can't they?" "I'll store it in the utility room," Mariana assured. "No one will pay attention." The contrast between their realms was unmistakable. As Nicholas sat in his glass office, making choices that impacted countless employees, Mariana found herself tidying up the remnants of her breakfast, her heart racing with each footstep she heard near the room where Santiago was left. In the early hours, Mariana successfully guarded her secret. "In every spare moment, I rushed to the nursery to hold the baby, nourish him, or attend to his diaper needs." The cramped space had turned into a makeshift refuge, yet he understood that he couldn't sustain this arrangement indefinitely. The day unfolded smoothly, until, in the afternoon, as he was tidying one of the main hallways, a cry pierced the air, sending chills down his spine. Santiago must have stirred from his slumber. Without a moment's hesitation, he dashed toward the utility room. As she cradled her baby, she felt his warmth enveloping her. A sudden fever had brought him to tears, and nothing he tried appeared to soothe him. In a moment of urgency, she led him to the kitchen in search of a damp cloth. Her concentration on reducing his fever was so intense that the sound of the front door opening went unnoticed. Nicholas Montenegro, having come back earlier than expected because of a headache, froze in place upon hearing the sound of crying. He traced the noise to the kitchen, where he discovered his employee cradling a baby. "What is the significance of this?" he inquired with a cutting tone. Mariana remained frozen, holding Santiago as he wept in her embrace. Their paths had just crossed in the most disastrous manner imaginable. "Sir." Montenegro, I hesitate, bracing for the inevitable. "My babysitter backed out, leaving me without anyone to care for him. He is experiencing a fever and—" Nicholas's blue eyes were locked onto the baby, his expression a mystery waiting to be unraveled. For a fleeting instant, a crack appeared in his typically icy stare. To Mariana's astonishment, rather than brushing her off right away, Nicholas merely let out a sigh. "Keep the child away from me until you can secure an appropriate babysitter," he finally stated, turning to exit. Mariana remained motionless, struggling to comprehend the events that had just unfolded. What was stopping him from letting her go? The question lingered in the atmosphere as she cradled Santiago, unaware that this moment would alter the course of their lives eternally. 3 days had gone by since the incident with Santiago, and Mariana remained in disbelief that her job was still intact. Each morning, she made her way to the mansion, anticipating Nicholas's call to his office for their farewell. However, that was not occurring. In a bid to ensure safety, she entrusted Santiago to a neighbor willing to look after him for a while, despite the financial strain it imposed on her. As she polished the windows of the main room, Mariana caught a glimpse of her boss, engrossed in his laptop, from the corner of her eye. Nicholas Montenegro remained a mystery to her and to all the staff, perpetually serious and perpetually aloof, as though an unseen barrier kept him apart from the surrounding world. "Carmen mentioned that you're having issues with your babysitter." Nicholas's voice shattered the stillness, catching her off guard. "Indeed, sir," Mariana replied, taken aback that he was addressing her. "I'm in search of a long-term solution, but it's challenging to locate someone whose rates fit within my budget." Nicholas acknowledged her with a nod, his gaze fixed intently on the screen before him. "Should you ever need to bring it, feel free to utilize the room adjacent to the laundry area. It offers improved airflow." Mariana nearly let the rag slip from her grasp. Did his superior grant him the go-ahead to include Santiago? "Are you certain, sir?" he boldly inquired. Nicholas furrowed his brow, as though he had blurted something out impulsively, provided it didn't disrupt your efforts. He rose and exited the room in silence, yet Mariana observed that his hands were tightly balled into fists, as though an internal struggle was waging against that choice. 3 days later, the neighbor interrupted Mariana's day with a phone call. "I was unable to keep looking after Santiago. His daughter had succumbed to illness." Mariana sensed the heavy burden of hopelessness pressing down on her. Her income was hardly sufficient to meet essential costs, and hiring a new babysitter would require more funds than she had available. During his break, he explored various options, reaching out to several individuals but to no avail. "All prices seem excessively high," she murmured softly to herself, weary. At last, with no other options available, Mariana was compelled to return the baby to the mansion, this time placing him in the room that Nicholas had recommended. The day unfolded smoothly, without any issues. Santiago exhibited a remarkable calmness, as though he grasped the delicate nature of his mother's circumstances. As the evening settled in, Mariana busied herself with dinner, following the cook's guidance, when suddenly, the sound of her son's unmistakable laughter reached her ears. Startled, she dashed to the room where she had left him. To his astonishment, he discovered Nicholas positioned by the slightly ajar door, observing Santiago, who was chuckling as he engaged with a small teddy bear that he couldn't recall having given him. "Mr. Montenegro, pardon me," he said quickly, "I'll guide you elsewhere." "It's not needed," he responded, his gaze fixed on the baby. "He has a contagious laugh." There was a certain quality in his voice, maybe a hint of sadness, that caused Mariana to scrutinize him more intently. For the first time, he observed subtle lines forming around his eyes, indicators of weariness that transcended the mere physical realm. Santiago, seemingly aware of the gaze upon him, turned his gaze to the door and stretched out his tiny arms, his little hands opening and closing as if yearning to grasp something just out of reach. Mariana held her breath, anticipating Nicholas's discomfort, yet he responded with a barely noticeable smile. That evening, as she completed the task of serving dinner, Nicholas caught her off guard with a surprising question. "Where is your father located?" Mariana felt a sudden tightness in her muscles. He preferred to keep it to himself. Upon discovering her pregnancy, she departed, offering a succinct reply. "He has yet to reach out to me again." Nicholas nodded slowly, contemplating the information with a thoughtful expression. "Do you wish you hadn't done it?" inquired. "Detain Santiago?" For the first time, Mariana offered him a genuine smile. "Absolutely not. It's the most incredible experience I've ever had." A peculiar yet soothing quiet enveloped them. In that fleeting instant, they transcended their roles, becoming two individuals connected by a rare moment of sincerity. "You can take it whenever you find it necessary," Nicholas finally remarked. "Maintain the order, please." "Thank you, sir," she said, keeping her voice steady. Once the house had fallen into a deep slumber, Nicholas quietly pulled open the drawer of his nightstand. Buried beneath a stack of papers, I discovered a photograph that had long been forgotten. A woman beamed at the camera, her pregnancy evident in her rounded belly. He tenderly caressed the image with his thumb, enveloped in memories that still stung as sharply as they did on the first day. In her room within the service area, Mariana was tucking Santiago in for the night, her mind occupied with thoughts of her boss's peculiar actions. In his gaze, there lingered an enigmatic blend of fascination and sadness upon seeing the baby, emotions he found difficult to comprehend. What mysteries lay hidden beneath Nicolas Montenegro's unyielding exterior? She pressed her lips to her son's forehead, filled with appreciation for the surprising act of empathy. Perhaps he pondered as he switched off the light, there was a depth to his boss that others had yet to uncover. In recent weeks, the atmosphere at the Montenegro mansion has shifted in subtle ways. Mariana occasionally brought Santiago along when she lacked someone to look after him, and to her surprise, Nicholas appeared increasingly at ease with the baby's presence. One morning, Mariana discovered a package resting on the table in the room that belonged to Santiago. Upon opening it, he found a baby monitor alongside a small pocket. Though there was no note, he was fully aware of who had placed it there. Nicholas had once again left something for Santiago, marking the third occasion of such an act. Initially, it was the teddy bear, followed by a collection of clothes, and now we have this. "The man is transforming," Carmen remarked as they got lunch ready. He had never shown such fascination for another person before. Mariana remained silent, her heart swirling with a blend of appreciation and uncertainty. The once stern and distant man who had employed her gradually began to reveal a more approachable side, particularly in Santiago's presence. That evening, Mariana toiled away into the night. He needed to complete the organization of certain documents that Nicholas required for a crucial meeting. Santiago rested soundly in the makeshift room as she toiled away in the office. Out of nowhere, the baby's wail caught her off guard. He cast a glance at the clock. The clock approached 10, and I found myself adrift in the passage of time. He sprang to his feet, but just as he was about to depart, he noticed the weeping begin to fade away. Upon entering the room, he came to an abrupt halt. Nicholas stood there, cradling Santiago with an unexpected ease. The infant, typically unsettled when cradled by someone unfamiliar, appeared entirely at ease in her embrace. His delicate fingers clutched Nicholas's tie with intensity, as Nicholas leaned in to speak to him in a hushed tone. "Take a deep breath, dear child. Your mother is occupied at the moment, yet she will arrive soon." Mariana paused, savoring the stillness, reluctant to break the spell of that moment. Witnessing a figure of such strength tenderly cradle his child was profoundly touching. "Pardon me, sir," he finally remarked. "The passage of time escaped my attention." Nicholas turned around, his demeanor calm and composed, showing no signs of embarrassment or discomfort. Tears streamed down my face. "The monitor I left you was functioning," he stated plainly. Feel free to complete your current task. I will remain with him for a little while. There is no necessity. I am capable, and I firmly assert my position. He cut her off with a tone that allowed for no argument, yet lacked the typical severity. Mariana nodded and made her way back to the office, her curiosity about her boss's behavior growing stronger. Carmen observed the unfolding scene from the hallway, her face etched with concern. As Mariana walked past her, he gently grasped her arm. Exercise caution, my dear, he murmured. If he becomes overly attached, it may lead to pain for both you and the child. What are you referring to? Mariana inquired, her brow furrowed in confusion. Carmen shook her head in disbelief. I may not be the one to say it, but there are scars in this home that time has forgotten. That evening, as Mariana finally gathered Santiago to head home, she discovered Nicholas nestled on the small couch in the room, the baby peacefully resting on his chest. The picture rendered her utterly speechless. He has your eyes, Nicholas remarked softly, and your smile. Thank you for looking after him, she replied, extending her hand to take the child. Nicholas delicately passed it to him, their fingers grazing momentarily in the process. An unusual hush enveloped them, heavy with unspoken thoughts. I can't quite grasp why his presence impacts me so deeply, he suddenly whispered, it's more about him than about Mariana. Her gaze met his with a hint of astonishment, yet she chose to hold her tongue. Nicholas inhaled deeply before proceeding. My wife and I welcomed a son into our lives. He entered the world ahead of schedule. He lasted only a few hours. Mariana sensed her heart constrict. In an instant, clarity washed over me. The chill, the fixation on structure, the initial reluctance to accept Santiago's presence. Nicholas Montenegro was not devoid of emotions, rather, he was a person who had shielded himself too effectively from them. I deeply apologize, he whispered, feeling at a loss for words. She couldn't move past it, he continued, as if she had to release those words she had held inside for so long. He held me responsible for dedicating so much time to work during the pregnancy, for my absence when the complications arose. Perhaps he had a point. A month following the funeral, he requested a divorce from me. Mariana embraced Santiago tightly, overwhelmed with a deep sense of gratitude for having her son safe and sound. Not everyone can endure a loss like that, he said gently, but you remain. Nicholas gazed at her as if he were truly seeing her for the first time. At times, I question whether I truly exist or if I'm merely playing a role, he replied, his candor catching her off guard. Good evening, Mariana. As she strolled to the bus stop, cradling Santiago in her arms, Mariana's mind was consumed by Nicholas' revelation. In an instant, everything fell into place. His aloofness, his fixation on dominance, his early dismissal of Santiago's existence, and now, his increasing fascination with the infant. For the first time, he perceived Nicholas Montenegro not as the fearsome superior, but as a man who had endured more than anyone ought to endure. In the weeks that followed, significant transformations unfolded within the Montenegro mansion. What had once been a shadowy and quiet space was starting to resonate with Santiago's laughter and, from time to time, Nicholas' subtle smile. Mariana had at last discovered a trustworthy babysitter. Yet, intriguingly, Nicholas discovered justifications to invite Santiago to the mansion a minimum of 2 times each week. He mentioned it to ensure you capture the essence of the moment. Ah, the babysitter certainly deserves a moment of respite. Unquestioned justifications that Mariana embraced, as she recognized the way her son's presence altered the mood of that home. On a leisurely Sunday afternoon, Nicholas caught her off guard by inviting her to linger a little longer. It was peculiar that he required it on a weekend, yet he maintained it was for a unique project. Upon their arrival with Santiago, Nicholas stood in the backyard, awaiting them. What is going on here? Mariana inquired, her eyes wide with wonder as she gazed at the tiny inflatable pool and the colorful toys strewn across the lawn. It's quite warm, Nicholas responded casually. I assumed the boy would enjoy a chance to refresh himself. Santiago, now 8 months old and crawling with newfound determination, was clearly thrilled by the vibrant scene before him. Mariana felt a warm smile spread across her face at the delightful surprise. There was no need for you to go through the trouble, sir. Nicholas corrected her. When we're off the clock, I'd appreciate it if you used my name. The afternoon unfolded like a scene from a different world, where Mariana transcended her role as the domestic employee and Nicholas shed his persona as the stern businessman. Two adults reveled in the infectious delight of a baby joyfully splashing in the water. As Santiago engaged with a rubber duck, Nicholas settled beside Mariana, finding refuge in the cool shade of a tree. I believe he enjoys my company more than yours, he remarked with a teasing smile, a gesture that Mariana had never witnessed from him before. She chuckled, a peculiar warmth blossoming within her chest. That's because you don't need to reprimand him when he gets into trouble. I could learn, he replied, his tone carrying a weight that drew Mariana's gaze to him with keen interest. As their gazes intertwined for a fleeting moment, the world around them appeared to dissolve into nothingness. Mariana experienced a shiver that coursed down her spine. What was unfolding between them? Whatever it was, it held an air of danger, an impossibility that grew more compelling with each passing moment, making it harder to dismiss. The facade of normalcy persisted throughout the afternoon, only to wane as the sun dipped below the horizon. As they collected items from the garden, Santiago let out a yawn, feeling worn out from the effort. I ought to bring him home, Mariana said. Today has been quite a whirlwind for him. I can handle them, Nicholas offered. It's getting late for them to catch the bus. It's truly not essential, to be honest. I must insist, he interjected softly. The thought of them being alone at this hour fills me with unease. The journey in Nicholas' opulent vehicle was quiet yet oddly soothing. Santiago drifted off to sleep almost instantly, serenaded by the gentle hum of the engine. Upon reaching the unassuming structure that housed Mariana, she became acutely conscious of the disparity between their lives. I appreciate all that you've done, he said while gathering Santiago and his belongings. Today has been truly delightful. Nicholas observed her with a focus that left her breathless. I feel the same way, he confessed. Beyond your wildest dreams. They parted ways, an unspoken assurance lingering in the air that more afternoons like this awaited them. Thus, it came to be. In the weeks that followed, their connection evolved into an enigmatic bond, more than mere hierarchy, yet not quite friendship, charged with an unspoken tension that lingered between them, unacknowledged. One evening, after Mariana had tucked Santiago into bed in the room that had become almost exclusively hers within the mansion, she encountered Nicholas in the softly illuminated corridor. They found themselves in solitude. The majority of the personnel had already stepped down from their positions. Each day, he resembles you more, Nicholas remarked, gesturing towards the boy. Everyone says that, she said with a smile, though he definitely inherited his father's stubbornness. It must be challenging to raise him on her own. Mariana gave a subtle nod. Indeed, I would select it repeatedly without hesitation. They exchanged glances, a quiet understanding passing between them, and the atmosphere shifted subtly. Nicholas advanced a step closer to her, bridging the gap that separated them. Mariana sensed her heart quicken. He lifted his hand, pausing briefly, before softly caressing her cheek. Time appeared to stand still. Nicholas inclined his head gradually, allowing him the opportunity to depart if he desired. Yet Mariana remained still. Their lips brushed together in a hesitant, almost anxious kiss that swiftly evolved into something more profound, more intense. Years of solitude and suffering appeared to fade away in that connection. As they finally separated, both of them were panting for breath. Nicholas pressed his forehead gently against hers, his eyes shut tight, as though he dreaded the moment he might awaken from this enchanting reverie. Please, tell me this isn't a mistake, he murmured, his voice thick with an unexpected fragility. Before Mariana had the chance to reply, a sudden noise accompanied by a loud bang jolted him. As they turned, their eyes landed on Carmen at the end of the hallway, a tray scattered at her feet and a look of sheer astonishment etched across her features. The atmosphere had shifted. Yet, what had begun that evening was now beyond their control. The journey began with a sensation of lightheadedness. As Mariana prepared breakfast, the world around her began to whirl and sway. For days, she had been unwell, but she linked it to exhaustion and the strain of her intricate new circumstances with Nicholas. Following the kiss in the hallway, they both made an effort to maintain a facade in front of their colleagues, yet it was evident that a shift had occurred in their relationship. The secretive looks, the hushed exchanges, the serendipitous meetings in the garden while Santiago played, all wove together a delicate cocoon of joy that Mariana dreaded might shatter at any instant. "How are you feeling today?" Nicholas inquired as he observed her pallor at the breakfast table. "Oh, I'm just a bit worn out," she fibbed, managing a smile. Yet that afternoon, as I tidied up the library, the dizziness surged back with even more intensity. His vision faded, and the final memory that lingered before darkness enveloped him was the echo of books tumbling to the ground. He stirred awake in a hospital room, surrounded by the relentless beeping of machines echoing in the sterile air. As she attempted to rise, a steady hand held her back. "Please, stay still," Nicholas's voice was tight with concern. Santiago slipped from his parched lips, the name lingering in the air. "It's all right, Carmen is looking after him," he said softly, tenderly stroking her hand. "Why didn't you let me know you were unwell? I never imagined it was something significant." The door swung open, revealing a doctor whose expression was grave and intense. Upon careful examination, he validated their worst fears. Mariana faced a grave infection that necessitated urgent care and an extended stay in the hospital for several weeks. A few weeks. Fear was evident on his face. "I am unable to, my son. I will look after Santiago," Nicholas asserted with conviction. "Concentrate on getting better." Mariana felt the urge to voice her dissent, yet fatigue overwhelmed her resolve. With tears glistening in his eyes, he gave a faint nod before slipping back into a troubled slumber. The initial days posed the greatest challenges for Nicholas. Even though she had formed a unique connection with Santiago, providing him with constant care presented an entirely new set of challenges. Carmen provided assistance throughout the day, yet it was he who rose at night whenever the boy's cries echoed through the darkness. One morning, as he gently rocked Santiago back to sleep, Nicholas discovered himself humming a cherished lullaby that his mother had sung to him in his childhood. The infant gazed up at him with wide, deep-set eyes, reminiscent of Mariana's, and in that moment, after so long, Nicholas experienced a profound sense of belonging. "Let's go look after your mom, all right?" he murmured to the young child, who replied with a joyful gurgle. As the days unfolded, an unspoken change took root within the Montenegro mansion. The spaces that were previously ruled by chill and meticulous arrangement now bore the delightful chaos of toys strewn across the floor. Nicholas's office had transformed into a makeshift playroom, featuring a small crib beside his desk, allowing him to work while keeping an eye on the child. Carmen observed the transformation with a blend of wonder and apprehension. "I never imagined I would witness the gentleman in this light," he remarked to the cook as they busied themselves with Santiago's porridge. "It feels as though he's transformed into someone entirely different." "Love transforms individuals," the woman replied with a knowing smile. "That child has accomplished what no one else could, thawing the frost that encased his heart." Nicholas made it a point to visit Mariana in the hospital each afternoon, bringing Santiago along so he could spend time with his mother. He shared with her the strides he had made, how he had started to pull himself up using the furniture, how he was already reacting to his name, his fresh, slurred speech. On one of these visits, as Santiago played with a stuffed animal in the hospital bed, Nicholas shared a photo on his phone with Mariana, capturing the baby sleeping peacefully on his chest, both nestled together on the living room couch. Carmen captured this image yesterday, he said, a hint of bashfulness in his smile. He claims we dozed off in that position after dinner. Mariana's eyes brimmed with tears, not from sorrow, but from a profound sense of gratitude. The sight of her son nestled securely in Nicholas's embrace stirred an indescribable emotion within her. "Thank you," he murmured, his voice quivering, "for looking after him, for everything." Nicholas grasped her hand softly, his fingers gliding over hers with tenderness. "He has given me something I thought I would never have again," she confessed quietly, "a purpose beyond work, a reason to wake up every morning with joy." They exchanged glances in silence, the unspoken words lingering in the air, resonating deeply between them. Nicholas bent down and pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead, a gesture brimming with tenderness that made Mariana feel as though her heart could explode. As the moment arrived to part ways, Nicholas lifted Santiago, who let out a brief protest at being away from his mother. Before exiting the room, he paused at the door, gazing at Mariana with a fervor that rendered her breathless. "You don't have to face this alone anymore," she whispered, and in those heartfelt words lay a commitment that would change their lives for eternity. As she observed them depart, Mariana came to understand that, even though she was in a hospital, momentarily separated from her son, she had never experienced such a profound sense of solitude in her life. After 3 long weeks in the hospital, the long-awaited day for Mariana to return home had finally come. Seated in the wheelchair mandated by hospital policy for her release, she anxiously awaited the nurse as she finalized the final paperwork. His heart raced at the sight of Nicholas emerging in the hallway, cradling Santiago in his arms. The young child, upon spotting his mother, reached out his arms with great enthusiasm. "Mother!" he exclaimed with clarity, a fresh term he had acquired during his time away. Mariana's eyes welled up with tears in an instant. He rose from the chair, ignoring the nurse's objections, and embraced his son with every ounce of strength his frail body could muster. Nicholas observed them with a grin, his blue eyes radiating warmth like never before. "Let's go home," he said simply, and that word, home, carried a new weight this time. To Mariana's astonishment, the vehicle veered away from her modest apartment and headed towards the Grand Montenegro mansion. "I was under the impression you were going to drive me home," she remarked, puzzled. "The physician indicated that you require attention and relaxation," Nicholas replied. "Assistance will be available around the clock at the mansion. I have already set up a room for you and Santiago." Mariana felt the urge to voice her defiance, to assert that she was capable of managing her own affairs as she always had. Yet, deep down, she grappled with the undeniable truth of her lingering vulnerability. Moreover, the thought of being near Nicholas, witnessing his interactions with Santiago, enveloped her in a comforting warmth she was reluctant to let go of. Upon arriving at the mansion, he found that one room was, in fact, a complete suite adjacent to Nicholas's master bedroom. It was fully stocked with all the essentials for her and Santiago, featuring a brand new crib, an array of toys, fresh clothes, and even a cutting-edge baby monitor. "I truly appreciate everything you've done for me," Mariana expressed that evening after tucking Santiago in for the night. "Your efforts surpass what anyone else might have accomplished." On the quaint balcony of their room, they sat together, savoring a cup of tea. The evening air was filled with the fragrance of blossoms from the garden, while the moon softly cast its glow upon their faces. "I didn't do it out of obligation," Nicholas replied, his tone gentler than normal. "Santiago and you have restored something to me that I believed was gone for good." The following days ushered in a fresh routine. Mariana had transcended her role as just a domestic employee, she now held a complex position within the household and in Nicholas's life. The staff observed with intrigue, yet refrained from voicing their thoughts on how their superior shared breakfast with her and the child each morning. He would spend afternoons in the garden with Santiago, playing together, while their nightly conversations on the balcony would stretch into the late hours. A week after his return, as they shared dinner in the main dining room, a scene that seemed unimaginable just months prior, Nicholas posed a question that had lingered in his thoughts for days. Have you considered what your plans will be once you are fully healed? Mariana set the fork aside on the plate, a sudden knot tightening in her stomach. He had tried to push it from his mind, the unavoidable moment when he would have to face his reality once more. I suppose I'll return to my apartment, she replied with a hint of hesitation, and resume my duties if you still require my services as your housekeeper. Nicholas gazed at her, weighing his next words with deliberate thought. And I require your assistance for more than just tidying up this place. Mariana felt her heart race with intensity. What precisely was he implying? Nicholas, These months, he cut in, have been the happiest I've experienced in years. Caring for Santiago and being with you made me confront everything I had been evading. He rose from his chair and moved closer to her, kneeling beside her seat to match her eye level. He grasped her hands gently, and Mariana sensed a subtle quiver within them. Caring for your son has revealed to me the depth of my loss and the intensity of my longing, he admitted, his voice trembling with feeling. A family, Mariana, a life filled with connection and warmth beyond mere work and solitude. She sensed the tears poised to cascade from her eyes. It was overwhelmingly perfect, strikingly sudden, and intensely captivating. Our worlds are so distinct. He murmured, affirming the dread that had lingered from the start. You are Nicholas Montenegro, and I am merely the girl who tidies up your home. You are the one who showed me how to embrace my feelings once more, he replied with conviction, the mother of an incredible child who helped me mend scars I believed would never fade. I am indifferent to your origins, all that matters is your desire to share in my life. That evening, once Santiago had drifted into slumber, Mariana discovered Nicholas on the terrace, lost in thought as he gazed at the stars. He moved quietly, pausing beside her. In that fleeting moment, silence enveloped them, both content to inhabit the same space without uttering a word. Thank you, she finally said, for everything you've done for us. Nicholas turned to look at her, his gaze piercing through the shadows. I should be the one expressing my gratitude, he responded. Caring for Santiago opened my eyes to what I genuinely desire in life. Mariana moved in, her heart racing with anticipation. What is it that you desire? The air was thick with tension, brimming with emotions that had been held back for months. Nicholas bridged the gap, tenderly cradling her face in his hands. This time, when their lips met, there was only certainty and resolve. The kiss conveyed unspoken vows, hinting at a future once deemed unattainable, yet now felt tantalizingly close. As they finally parted, Nicholas leaned his forehead against hers, his eyes shut tight, as if savoring the essence of the moment. Please, tell me this isn't a mistake, she murmured, her voice laced with a fragility that had remained hidden from everyone else. Mariana cupped his face in her hands, compelling him to meet her gaze head-on. If this is a mistake, he said with a grin, then it's the most exquisite one I've ever made. That evening, beneath the shimmering stars, they both dared to dream that their contrasting worlds might, in the end, unite as one. A realm where Nicholas' tumultuous history and Mariana's challenges were merely the journeys they needed to undertake to discover one another. The ensuing months unfolded like a vivid dream, one from which neither Mariana nor Nicholas wished to awaken. The connection that started with uncertainties and anxieties evolved into something exquisite and enduring. The mansion, once shrouded in cold shadows, now radiated with vibrant life and inviting warmth. Initially, they shielded their relationship from the world, aiming to spare her from prying eyes and hurtful remarks, yet it quickly became unfeasible to conceal the undeniable truth. The way Nicholas gazed at Mariana, the brightness that filled his face when Santiago dashed towards him, calling him Nico, and how their hands instinctively sought one another in close proximity, all of it unveiled a love blossoming with each passing day. They'll have their opinions, Mariana remarked one evening, reclining beside him in the garden as they observed Santiago engrossed in his block play. They will claim that my intentions are driven by your wealth or that your motives are for. Nicholas interrupted her with a kiss. What do you say? He replied, exuding a sense of unshakable assurance. What truly matters to me is how you and Santiago feel. Initially, the staff exchanged whispers when Nicholas began inviting her to dinner, yet none of them had the courage to inquire. "Since when does Mrs. Mariana sit at the main table?" one of the cooks murmured. Carmen joked, "Since Mr. Montenegro looks at her as if the sun rose and set on her," though a hint of caution laced her words. What began as a hidden truth slowly evolved into an accepted reality. Mariana transitioned from her role as housekeeper to embrace her new identity as Nicholas Montenegro's partner. The shift sparked whispers in the social and business realms he frequented, yet for the first time, Nicholas realized he was largely indifferent to the opinions of others. Santiago, now nearly a year and a half old, adjusted to the new circumstances with the effortless grace that only young ones can muster. Nicholas had always been a steady and affectionate presence in his life. Encountering him daily, resting beneath the same roof, enjoying shared breakfasts, baths, and bedtime tales, only deepened a connection that had started to take shape since their initial encounter in the kitchen. On a serene Sunday morning, as they enjoyed breakfast in the garden, Santiago made his first unassisted steps, wobbling from Mariana's embrace to Nicholas's waiting arms. The man's face lit up with joy, tears streaming down as he lifted the child into the air, celebrating the achievement. It was a moment that confirmed what Mariana had already sensed. Nicholas was more than just his partner. He had truly embraced the role of a father to Santiago. As the child drifted into a peaceful slumber that night, Nicholas wrapped his arms around Mariana from behind, both of them gazing at the moon from the balcony of their room. "I never imagined happiness would find me again," he admitted softly. "After losing my son, I constructed barriers so formidable that I believed no one could penetrate them, and we didn't even attempt to dismantle them," she replied with a smile. "We simply encircled them." Nicholas chuckled gently, pressing his lips to her neck. "You and Santiago not only enveloped my barriers, you rendered them obsolete." Yet, amidst the joy that enveloped them, Mariana started to perceive transformations within her body. Initially, there were moments of dizziness, followed by overwhelming fatigue, and ultimately the morning sickness that I attempted to conceal. I was familiar with these symptoms. I had encountered them previously. One afternoon, as Nicholas engaged in a crucial meeting and Santiago enjoyed his nap, Mariana secluded herself in the bathroom with a pregnancy test. The moment stretched on endlessly, a blend of anticipation and trepidation swirling within. As the positive result finally emerged, his hands trembled with anticipation. An infant. She was anticipating the arrival of Nicholas's child. The initial delight swiftly transformed into unease. What would his response be? Did your journey through fatherhood carry significant emotional scars? Are you prepared to confront the prospect of becoming a father once more? Or might the dread of experiencing your loss again be overwhelming? For days, Mariana held on to the secret, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal the news. He observed Nicholas engaging with Santiago, contemplating the transformations that would unfold once he learned about the impending arrival of the new baby. At last, one evening after tucking Santiago in for the night, Mariana discovered Nicholas in his office, poring over some papers. He moved forward with caution, his heart racing in his chest. "May we have a conversation?" he inquired, his voice quivering. Nicholas glanced up at once, catching sight of her unease. "What's going on? Is everything okay?" Mariana inhaled deeply, seeking the perfect expression. "I have something important to share with you," she started, taking a seat across from him. "A matter of significance." "You're frightening me," Nicholas said, grasping her hands. "No matter what comes our way, we will confront it side by side." "I'm expecting," she finally exclaimed, watching his response intently. "We're expecting a little one." Nicholas's expression became rigid. In a dreadful instant, Mariana was gripped by the fear of the unimaginable. "No," he whispered, retreating a step. "Nicholas?" He shook his head, attempting to dispel the clutter in his mind. He raised a hand to his face, clearly moved. "Last time," she whispered, her voice trembling, Mariana felt a lump in her throat. He moved closer, gently covering her hand with his. "This time it will be different," he murmured. "This time we are united." Nicholas shut his eyes for a brief moment. He inhaled deeply, and when he opened them once more, the fear that had previously consumed him was replaced by something entirely different. Hope. "A baby?" he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper, as if uttering the words might cause the reality to vanish. "Are you certain?" Mariana affirmed with a nod, her eyes glistening with emotion. "Absolutely safe." Nicholas rose and enveloped her in a fierce embrace, nearly lifting her from the ground. As they pulled away, Mariana caught a glimpse of the turmoil swirling in his gaze. There was joy and hope, yet beneath it all lay an unmistakable, profound fear that was impossible to conceal. "I'm scared," he admitted, leaning his forehead against hers. "I understand," he interjected softly, "and it's perfectly normal to feel that way. I feel it as well, but this time will be different. This moment we share is profound." Nicholas rested his hand on Mariana's belly, a gesture imbued with such tenderness that it took her breath away. "I lost a son once," he said, his voice steady yet laced with emotion, "but I won't lose this one. This time, I will make the right choices." That night, nestled together in bed, they envisioned their future. They discussed names, how they would share the news with Santiago about his soon-to-arrive sibling, and how they would convert one of the rooms into a delightful children's space. "I never imagined my life would unfold this way," Mariana admitted. "When I found out I was expecting Santiago and his father left me, I believed we would always be on our own." Nicholas wrapped his arms around her, holding her close. "They will never be alone again," he vowed. "From this moment forward, I will always be your sanctuary." As they drifted into slumber, Mariana reflected on the peculiar and enchanting journey that life had crafted for them. One day of desperation, marked by the secret arrival of Santiago at the mansion, altered their fates irrevocably. Pain and loss, it seemed, could pave the way for an unforeseen yet profoundly healing love. Thus, in the embrace of the man who had transformed from her distant employer to the love of her life, Mariana drifted into slumber with a smile, envisioning the future they could now create together. The afternoon sun enveloped the garden of the Montenegro mansion in a warm, golden glow, transforming the scene into something reminiscent of a fairy tale. A year had slipped by since that pivotal night when Mariana revealed her pregnancy to Nicholas, and their shared life had flourished like the vibrant roses now gracing the once bare garden. Perched on a bench beneath the sprawling oak tree, Mariana observed Nicholas as he engaged in playful antics with Santiago, who, at 2.5 years old, darted around with boundless energy, eagerly pursuing a ball. In his embrace, tiny Lucia, just 4 months old, slept soundly, her delicate features a harmonious blend of her parents', Nicholas' azure eyes and Mariana's gentle smile. The journey of pregnancy unfolded amidst meticulous care and a few restless nights, particularly for Nicholas, who found it challenging to keep the shadows of his past at bay. Yet, with each reassuring ultrasound, every flutter from the baby, and each doctor's visit that brought good news, those old scars gradually began to mend. As Lucia entered the world, her cries resonating with life and health, Nicholas felt tears of pure joy streaming down his cheeks while he cradled her for the first time, a joy long absent since the loss of his first child years ago. "Dad, look, I caught the ball!" Santiago exclaimed, dashing towards Nicholas, beaming with pride. "That's a champion!" Nicholas replied, lifting him high into the air and spinning him around, igniting a fit of uncontrollable laughter from the little boy. Mariana beamed at the sight before her. Nicholas's evolution never ceased to amaze her. The stern, solitary figure she once recognized as her superior had blossomed into a devoted father and a nurturing, considerate companion. The mansion, once a cold and lifeless mausoleum, now brimmed with toys, laughter, and the occasional childish tantrum. 3 months had passed since Santiago officially adopted the surname Montenegro, following Nicholas and Mariana's intimate wedding ceremony in the mansion's garden. It was a simple yet emotional affair, with Santiago proudly serving as the ring-bearer and Carmen, a witness to their journey, discreetly wiping away tears during the vows. "What occupies your mind?" Nicholas inquired, drawing near with Santiago perched on his shoulders. "About us," she replied, beaming. "How did we arrive at this moment?" Nicholas settled beside him, gently lowering Santiago, who promptly moved closer to gaze at his little sister with the familiar curiosity he always displayed towards her. "At times, it feels like a dream," Nicholas admitted, wrapping an arm around Mariana's shoulders. "After the loss of my first child, I dedicated my life to work, believing that love and family were not meant for me." Mariana leaned her head against his shoulder, inhaling the comforting scent she cherished deeply. "I was convinced it would always be Santiago and me against the world," she continued, "particularly after her father left us." Santiago, disinterested in the grown-up talk, had gone back to chasing his ball, relishing the vastness of the garden. "If someone had said to me 2 years ago that this would be my life," Nicholas reflected, observing his adopted son at play and his biological daughter resting in the embrace of the woman he cherished. "You wouldn't have believed it," Mariana finished, fully aware of his unspoken thoughts. "No," he concurred, pressing a gentle kiss to her lips, "but I wouldn't trade her for anything." Their life was far from flawless. They navigated the inquisitive and occasionally spiteful gazes of the elite circles in which Nicholas operated, enduring the subtle jabs about the maid who ensnared the wealthy man. Carmen recounted how some of Nicholas' old friends hinted that Mariana was merely interested in their wealth, or how whispers circulated about Santiago not being a genuine Montenegro. Yet, Nicholas astonished everyone, including Mariana, with his complete disregard for such opinions. The man who had previously been so preoccupied with appearances and his business standing now unequivocally demonstrated that his family took precedence over all else. He had cut back on his work hours, assigned tasks to others, and reshaped his life to ensure he was there for every significant moment. "Do you recall the day we first met?" Mariana inquired unexpectedly. "When you discovered me with Santiago in the kitchen, I was convinced you would dismiss me immediately." Nicholas smiled, recalling that pivotal moment that altered the trajectory of their lives. "Back then," he acknowledged, "I only perceived one downside. Little did I know I was on the brink of my redemption." Lucia stirred in Mariana's embrace, her blue eyes fluttering open as she surveyed her surroundings with that unique wonder only infants can convey. Nicholas reached out a finger, which the little girl grasped with unexpected vigor. "I believe we saved each other," Mariana murmured gently. "You provided us with a sanctuary, and we teach you the essence of love." Santiago dashed back, this time with a flower in his hand that he joyfully presented to his mother. Nicholas hoisted him onto his lap, perfecting the family portrait. Life had woven a complex tapestry for both of them. The threads of pain, loss, and loneliness had left their marks, yet they had also equipped them to see and cherish joy when it emerged in the most unexpected corners, between a far-off employer and his devoted housekeeper, between a man hesitant to embrace love anew and a woman yearning for stability for her child. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Nicholas gazed at his family and grasped a simple yet profound truth. This was the life she never knew she desired, yet now found impossible to envision without. Santiago, weary from endless play, nestled against Nicholas's chest, while Lucia yawned softly in her mother's embrace. Bound by the love that had emerged from the remnants of their difficult histories, the family they never anticipated creating gazed at the sunset, aware that the morrow would usher in fresh challenges, new delights, and, above all, a love that would deepen with every day spent together. Did the love story of Mariana and Nicholas resonate with you? It's a tale where fate unites two individuals from vastly different backgrounds through little Santiago, showing that love has the power to mend even the most profound scars and connect disparate lives. If this narrative of second chances struck a chord with you, please remember to like, comment, and share it with someone special who also believes in love's transformative nature. We'd love to hear in the comments where you're experiencing this beautiful story from, and if you're interested in more content like this. If you've grown fond of the characters as we have, consider subscribing to the channel so you won't miss our upcoming tales that are sure to evoke sighs, laughter, and perhaps a tear or two. From which part of the world are you joining us today?